Hello folks, and welcome to another episode of What Are You Doing? No, not the show where people screw things up. It's the show where we are showcasing what you guys are making in your shop. It's a means to encourage and inspire other woodworkers to get involved in this wonderful craft of woodworking. So, let's get right into it. Now, I have two apologies I have to give out this week too. One is to Ricky Jacob. Ricky, a couple weeks ago, did a flag box and a little shadow box underneath it where he was giving it to a close friend and I guess a mentor of him there in the Navy. The fellow was retiring, and Ricky wanted to make something to place his different medals, medallions in, as well as his flag. And we showed a picture of it in the progress. The following week, he showed it to me done, and I forgot to include him in the show. I tend to forget sometimes because I have people sending me photos from all these different sources, from Twitter, from Facebook, now Instagram, emails. I prefer to get it through an email, but at any rate, I missed it, and so I wanted to show that here. It's really nice what he did. It was all out of walnut. And I know his friend was probably thrilled to get it. The other person I need to apologize to is Kevin Delk. Yes, the man, the myth, the legend, the Kevin Delk Show. I think from the very beginning, when we started doing this series, Kevin's been sending something in every week. This guy really hustles. And I forgot the one week, I teased that he was beamed up to the mothership because I swear he's got to be a space alien to work like this. But no, I just, once again, I didn't get the photo. It was in another file, and so I completely missed it. So Kevin here is working on some chairs, and this is for a customer. I know a few weeks back he built a table, a large, like, dining room table for someone. I'm assuming this is that same customer, but hey, who knows? I got going in the shop right now, a dining room table for one customer and 6 dining room chairs for another customer, so they don't always go together. Anyhow, so sorry you guys, I'll try not to make that mistake again. So moving on, we seem to have several regular viewers from Australia, and you guys know I love Australia, and I love talking with the folks, well, everywhere. But Peter Compton down there, he's got a couple things going. He's building a bench, and so he sent me photos twice this week. So he's building a bench, and he has a part-time helper. School's out over there for a couple of weeks for them, and so he was going to have a little assistant, an apprentice, if you would, in his shop. And so I was kind of real eager to hear what Peter was going to, teach the young lad. And it turns out Peter's job called him in and is unable to actually spend the time with the kid the way he wanted to. But Peter did get the bench done. And he said no sooner did he get it done, it sold. I mean, he probably didn't even have a chance to turn that vise in closed, and he sold it. So that's cool. That's encouraging. But I wonder if that was the intent. Peter, was it your intent to sell the bench or to actually keep it? At any rate, it looks like there's probably going to be another bench in his future. Okay, moving on. We have someone who's new. His name is Ibrahim Hashimi. He even spelled it out for me, and I probably still screwed it up. You guys know that. Anyhow, Abraham been watching the show for a while, decided to send in some photos, so thank you very much for that. And he made this dovetailed step stool for his 2-year-old daughter. And there you go, you can see the daughter sitting on it. He said it was something new for him to do. He was kind of learning as he went with his dovetails. And he's been watching the dovetail series that we've been doing here on Wood Shop and Time, and asked if I could show, like, common problems, common mistakes, common things to look for when you're doing dovetails. And yes, that video hopefully will be out this Friday. But at any rate, I wanted to thank you, Abraham, for being part of the show this week. And I love seeing photos of the kids. I think Jeff Nord last week sent in photos of his kid there in the shop. And so, I don't know, I just get a thrill, seeing the kids as cute as they are. So thank you so much for the photo. All right, so Jeff Leiby. Jeff, I think a week or two ago, was working on a router lift. And instead of just buying one from a manufacturer, which costs, he said, between $300 to $400, he got some plans online, and he said the plans weren't very good, and he was a little discouraged because he was trying to work some things out. But through this show, because of you all, Jeff was inspired. He decided, after setting that down for 2 years, he decided he wants to get involved again in making stuff, and he figured out the problem that he was stumped on, and he completed it. So there, you see, said the plans and the material cost him like $75. Can't beat that. And he's going to build his own router stand or a router table. Sounds like Jeff's a little bit of a taller guy, so he wants one that's up at a height that's comfortable for him. And again, is beautiful where us woodworkers can make things to accommodate us versus settling for just what they sell in stores. So at any rate, thank you, Jeff, for joining back in to doing the woodworking. And actually, thank you to all you viewers who've been sending in photos to keep the show going every week to help inspire people like Jeff. Peter James. Peter James, you've heard me mention him a couple of times. He builds mandolins, and he's got a couple of students. And last week, the photo was showing the student had, bent some wood, and I couldn't remember how he said he did it. And so this photo shows he's using a silicone heat blanket and, of course, a form, and that will make the wood stay in that shape that they want off the form. I had never heard of a silicone heat blanket before, so that was new to me. I mean, I've always been familiar with doing a form, of course, and you can either steam it in place, or you can do like a laminate glue up thin pieces, and then you glue them all around the form in that way. But I'd never heard of a silicone heat blanket, so I'm anxious to keep talking with Peter and learn more about that. And Peter James is also the fellow credited with our music at the end of this show. So if you haven't heard it before, it's a great little ditty that he did. So we'll be playing that at the end. So thanks, Peter, for the photos. Oh, and this other photo is his student actually doing some work on the mandolin, because he does some classes of this. So very cool, very exciting to see that specific form of woodworking being taught. Okay, Marvin Moore. Marvin, several months ago, I think, sent in some photos just in the beginning stages of a breakfast nook bench that he was building. And so he says he's like 90% done with it. So here's the updated photo of it. You can see it's got some drawers underneath it and everything. Cute. I love breakfast nooks. There's something about small and cozy I like versus a big and spacious room. So at any rate, I'm sure the family will enjoy having breakfast on that. Steve Terry. Steve made some bubblegum machines, and it's made out of rustic hickory. And Steve said that he's made these for a while now. He said like 5 years he's been making them, and he's made 30 of them over the course of 5 years. Now, he doesn't really sell them or anything, because he says it takes him like 7 hours to make one. But he makes enough of them that he gives them away to family. And I'm thinking if you gave away 30 to family, you have a big family. I can count on one hand how many family members I have. I don't even need one hand to do it. So, and anyhow, just kind of fun. I mean, he says people love them, and maybe some of you viewers are out there are looking to get ideas and maybe sell some woodworking at craft shows or whatever. And Steve says that these things always go like hotcakes. The family they're always asking for it. So there you go. Great ideas from our viewers. Kevin Enlow. Kevin is in the process of making these cornhole boards, and he said it's for a customer, and the customer is going to want them stained, and so that's going to be his next step. So I'm going to be curious to see what color the customer chooses. That's always a stumbling block for my customers. They can never seem to decide, and I show them samples on a board, and it just is the longest process. And I like to give them samples on a board so that they can go back to their house and maybe color coordinate either with other furniture or the wallpaper or whatever they got going, versus them just standing in my shop and picking a color. So I usually do a sample board, and it looks like Kevin is probably at that waiting stage too. But I'm sure I'll have them wrapped up in the next week or so and hopefully see the final product again here on the show. See, moving on to the next page here. We had quite a few entries this week, so page 1 done. Brad Soulchin. Brad has been on the show before, and he said his daughter was online, probably Pinterest. I know that's where my wife likes to go to get ideas. And his daughter saw this chalkboard with hooks on it. I imagine it's probably like by a mudroom or something, so you can write to the kids, when they come home from school, do your homework, and hang their coat up, or, clean up the mud from your shoes, whatever. So anyway, he took some of the pictures that his daughter sent him and made a design of his own. He says it's just a simple build. He's using some pine and pocket holes. And you know what? It doesn't have to be a real elaborate piece. It's not about who can make the fanciest, showiest piece. It just has to serve the purpose, right? So he still has to, I imagine they're going to stain it too, because he said his daughter specifically asked for pine. So maybe it's going to be like that rustic look to it. But anyway, so that's what he's got going in progress. I'm sure we'll see it all wrapped up next week. So thank you, Brad. Keath Mealy. Keath, I know Keath. Keath has invited me down to speak at the Cincinnati Woodworking Club down there. They had me down a year or so ago as a guest speaker. Great time. Just a good bunch of folks down there. Had a really nice time with it. Maybe, Keath, you'll invite me back. But anyway, Keath sent in some photos. He made a kid's kitchen play set for his grandkids, and so you can see the kids all playing with. Look at the smiles on those kids' faces. I was telling Keath, as they grow up, they are really going to remember that time, playing with that little kitchen set and everything. He just made some wonderful memories for his grandkids. I think that's fantastic. And I had seen before too, because I know the kitchen play sets are so popular. I had seen, the old entertainment centers that the TV was housed inside the big cabinet unit. I see them thrown out all the time now, because what do? They get the flat screen and they put it up on the wall, and you just don't need these big units anymore. Well, I had seen people take them and they make a little mini kitchen out of it. So they kind of make a little fake microwave hanging from the top and a little stove at the bottom, or they cut a hole and put a bowl in it, kind of make like a little sink type of thing for kids. Really clever way of repurposing those old TV entertainment centers. So at any rate, kids will love it. Keith's kids love it. So all in all, it's a lot of fun. All right, so we're going over to Ireland again. Yes, I'm becoming good friends with Mark Fitzsimons. Mark and I, I think we talk at least once or twice a week through email. And several of you I do. It seems like I'm really getting to know you all on a friendship level just through the email corresponding. And yet, I've never seen you guys. I've never seen you. I've never heard you speak. But I feel like I'm learning to know about you all from the emails. But Mark, you've heard me talk before. Mark is this fantastic woodworker. And he, too, said this show encourages him and gets him pumped up to get in the shop and make stuff. And I was kind of surprised to hear that, because Mark is so good. I wouldn't think a guy at his skill level would need encouraging. But apparently, we all need that from time to time. Whether you're just tired or whether you're down or something maybe is happening in the family and it's weighing heavy on you. Sometimes watching the show and seeing what others are doing and knowing, without getting into detail, knowing that others need encouragement and help, this is great. It's great we all can provide that. But anyhow, Mark made this kitchen island for, I think he said, his friend's father. And what he did there, it's made out of maple, and he matched the cabinet doors and drawers on it to match the existing kitchen. And the top, you can see, is a bunch of glue-ups of thin strips of maple there. And he said he was able to get all that top from leftover scrap waste from other jobs. So it sounds like he really didn't have to put a whole lot of money into this, was able to use the waste. And I was going to say, just as a tip, if you're trying to glue up more than 2 boards, it's tempting to want to glue 3, 4, 5 boards together all at the same time, just for time's sake. But I find, more than not, you can get one misaligned, and then when you come back to it and take it out of the clamps, then you're sanding or planing or whatever. So what I tend to do is I just glue up 2 at a time, let it dry, add a 3rd one, let it dry, add a 4th one, however many I need. Now, in Mark's case there, it looks like he's got a gazillion. That would take quite a while. But in general, like I said, if I have more than 2 boards, I try and glue them up in stages, just so I can always keep my attention on the mating boards and keeping them flat and aligned. Okay, at any rate, nice job, Mark. Nice talking with you. Look forward to some stuff next week. Jeffrey Stewart. Jeffrey said he's been watching this show for 3 months, which is, I think, probably 3-4 months, about how long we've been doing this series. And he said, this kind of made me laugh, he said this show is at the top of his list to watch on YouTube. And I'm thinking maybe Jeffrey doesn't watch a whole lot of YouTube. No, I do appreciate that, though. That's really nice, because this isn't a big show. I mean, it really doesn't get a whole lot of views. I don't have big subscription numbers like some of the other big boys out there. But it's nice to hear that what we're doing, and I say we're, and you all are included on this, what we're doing here is another fella that's inspired to watch this. So what Jeffrey did was, he said his wife and him were watching the movie White Christmas. I've never seen it, but and in the background there was a black stallion, and I think it's this on the poster. And from that, his wife suggested, well, why don't you make that? And he said he had to push himself out of his comfort zone to do something different. It took him 3 months to make. He made it out of poplar. And he said it's 46 inches long, it's 31 inches high, and 9 inches wide. And so he was able to replicate it. Very cool. And I'm excited to hear that, you all are stepping out of your comfort zone and really trying to take it to the next step. It's okay if we goof things up. A goof is perfect, because then you can later, as you achieve that step, you can go back and look at your original one and see your improvement. And that's always a self-esteem boost, is when we can see our own improvement. So Anyway, thank you, Jeffrey, for your photos. Thank you for watching, and we hope to have more work from you again soon. Brad Holland. Brad is down there in Australia, and I hope that's not offensive when I say down there. You know, I don't know if you guys don't like that term or not, but at any rate, Brad's down there in Australia. I think, I know I got Peter Compton down there. John Sr. is down there. Of course, my sister's down there. You guys always hear me talking about her. You're sick of that. But anyway, it seemed to be pretty popular in Australia. But Brad is making, and I'm not sure what this is. It looks just like art to me. But it's like this giant wooden donut. And what's impressive is that there's over 900 pieces in that. And of course, it's not done. You can see it's in the gluing up stage and clamps and everything, but pretty neat indeed. And he said it's made out of hoop pine. I never heard of hoop pines. I had to do a Google search on that. And he said he wants to make a nicer one out of some exotic woods in the future, but it's kind of neat. I don't know if, Brad, if you're selling that or if it's just something you did because you were just curious if you could. But anyway, very cool. We'd love to see more. We'd love to see the finish that you put on it. So thanks for joining us, and please send in more photos. Okay, Terry Kreiling. Terry's been on the show several times, and a couple of weeks ago on the After Hours Woodworking show, I kind of asked like what your first projects were or whatever. And Terry made this, I guess you could call it a nightstand, but I think he said it was originally for like a sewing table. But the two that you see here, the one is made out of cherry and birch. And that was one that his father made back in 1935. 1935. And then Terry made his version of it, and his is made out of oak and Purple Heart. And I thought that was pretty cool to so in 1935, that was his dad's school project, and Terry decided to make one himself. I don't know if Terry's father is actually able to see it. You know, I don't know if he's alive or not, but at any rate, just the thought of doing something that your parents inspired you to do, that's great. That's great. So thank you, Terry, for sending that in. Let's see. Okay, that's page 2 done. Rob Sower. Rob Sower joined us last week on the show, sent in some more photos, and this project here, I thought it was for like holding bottles, like beer bottles or wine bottles or something, but no, he said it's for e-vaping. I guess there's different bottles that come with the e-cigarette, whatnot. Anyhow, he decided he wanted something to organize and store it, and so he made this here. It's made out of maple and walnut, and he said it was his first time doing box joints and first time doing half laps. And again, another fella who's pushing his abilities, trying something new. So there's a couple of things a little bit harder on it than he expected. That's normal when we're doing something new, right? I mean, if it was all easy, then everyone would be doing it and no one would get inspired. But he stepped out of his comfort zone. He was doing that, and we started talking about design and the looks of projects. And so I'll just share this little tip with you. When I teach and do classes and stuff, Franklin Gottschall is a fabulous author. He's wrote some phenomenal books on furniture, period furniture design. At any rate, what always stuck out with me, he had 3 rules. One was it had to serve a purpose. All right, so don't make something for no reason. It has to serve a purpose. 2, it has to be constructed really well. And then 3, it has to look good. And And so I like to add to that. I'm going to give a fourth rule. 4, don't ever make rule number 3 ahead of rule number 1 or 2. So many times people try and make stuff just because it looks neat. And if it's not going to serve a purpose, if it's not going to be well constructed, it's got to be art then. So, unless it's art, that's different. But don't rush through something just for the sake of getting it done. Don't use, cheap, crappy methods to fasten it. Like if you're building a chair, don't use like butt joints and nails because it's going to fall apart and someone's going to get hurt. So always follow those 3 rules and you will have successful pieces of furniture. So, all right, moving on. I know you're tired of my talking. Mr. Moe. So Mr. Moe, he's another fellow who's tried something new. So he said for years his wife had this thick dictionary underneath the TV to raise it up to the height that's, pleasing to watch at. And so he just decided he was going to make a box for that. And he tried making finger joints for the first time. And he said he had a little trouble because his saw blade wasn't sharp enough for it. But he did do it and finished it through. And see, he learned something there. So maybe he knew the technique, but he learned the importance of our tools. Now, I'm not going to say he didn't take care of his tools. I mean, dull saw blades happen to everyone. Just when you use them, they get dull. But taking good care of your tools, making sure that, chisel stays sharp, hand planes stay sharp, keeping rust off of them, having them well organized, it's all a part of being an efficient furniture maker, woodworker. So, good job there, Mr. Moe. And again, thanks for sending stuff into the show. All right, Charles Deering. Now, you heard me talk about Charles last week. He is a scroll saw master. And so I am really pleased that Charles is watching the show and sending in his work. This is a guy who, he's an artist. I mean, he draws the stuff. He's an artist. And then he puts it onto the wood. You can see here he's got 3 different little pictures or sceneries going. I'm sure he told me the hours in it, but he's got an insane amount of hours in the work that he does. And it shows. It definitely shows. So he's been doing this for years and years, and again, I'm glad he's sharing his work here because I know there's several people out there that love scroll saw work, and for them to see this, hopefully it's encouraging and inspiring to them to where they want to push their limits, up their game a little bit to achieve the craftsmanship that Charles does. So at any rate, thank you, Charles, for watching. Thank you for joining. Okay, so now we are coming to Spotlight of the Week. And this Spotlight this week is on David Bishop over there at One Eye Woody. Now, David, he's been following Woodchopping Time for years now. I could always count on seeing his comments or his thumbs up, below. And you might remember David from last week. He did the little parody or comedy spoof of Woodchopping Time for the pop bottle opener or beer bottle opener. If you didn't see the video, I'll put the link again at the bottom. I did last week, but I'll put it again at the bottom. It's hilarious. Really funny. Really captured the style of Woodchopping Time in it. But he wanted to be spotlighted on this week, so again, I'll put all his info at the bottom in the description. Website, YouTube, Facebook, whatever the social media outlets are if you guys want to check them out. But David learned woodworking, I think it was just like an acquired thing for him. He said his grandfather loved woodworking, would always have something going in the shop. His father retired as a machinist, so it seems like the blue-collar bloodline runs deep in him, working with his hands. And so it was just a natural migration for him to do his own woodworking. He's been doing woodworking for 30 years. He said his his favorite build. I asked him, what was your favorite build that you did? And he said his favorite build was two things. One was this horse gambling wheel. And he said there's over 240 individual pieces put into that. And so you can just see, look at the jockey there. You can see the different pieces put into it. And so I'm willing to bet that took a while. I couldn't help myself. And he said his second favorite one was he made a replica of Eddie Van Halen's guitar. And he said he always, growing up in the 80s and listening to the radio, Eddie Van Halen was awesome, and his guitar and everything. And so when I first looked at the photo that he had sent, now he says it doesn't work. It's not a working guitar. But when he first sent it in, I thought, okay, he just, he made a guitar and hung it up. No. It's a 6-foot-tall Eddie Van Halen guitar. I was cracking up. It is so cool. I mean, it is really cool. Awesome. So he's got a video of that. I'll put that down below, too, if you guys want to see how he did the guitar. It's just really, really cool. And funny. And funny. So anyhow, I asked him what his ultimate project would be. I mean, if he had the means and time to make anything, what would it be? And this was kind of interesting. He said what he would like to do was make the ultimate tricked-out shop. And that kind of surprised me, because here I'm always thinking furniture. And for him, having a shop that has all the equipment that he needs, organized space, lighting, all that, that would be something that he would ultimately like to do. And then he's got a good point there. You need that stuff to do good work. So anyhow, that was our submissions for this week. Thank you all for sending stuff in. If you would like to have your work shown here on the show, just email me at stantonfinefurniture@gmail.com. And if you want to be a Spotlight Viewer of the Week, where we help promote your channel, your website, and what you're doing, same thing, just let me know, answer a few questions, and we'll get you on the show. Now, I have some big, exciting news for Wednesday's episode of After Hours Woodworking. So, I know most of you watch this show on a regular basis. We have 3 episodes a week. I thank you so much for that. I really do, because I can't believe that you guys all pretty much watch every one of them. But if there's one episode I'm asking you to see, it's on Wednesday. And it won't be very long, but it's going to be some interesting news. So, see you in a couple days. Until then, on behalf of myself and Safety Dan, keep on dancing.